Hello, everyone. Diana Rankin here. So glad to see you on this beautiful summer day. We are going to respond to a viewer's questions. And hello, Tiffany. So good to have you here live. And Kelly, good to see you. The subject matter today is a bit controversial. So I ask for any of your comments, whether live or in the comments below, to please be kind. We're going to talk about Supreme Court recent decisions in response to a viewer's question. So some of those decisions are quite controversial. Regardless of your belief system, whether you agree with me or disagree, I'm asking you to any comments to be kind and to be loving. And let's love from our hearts and hear each other. We don't have to agree with the other, but regardless of which side we're on, let's be kind. I get so upset with people who yell at each other. And believe me, there are times I would like to yell. Judith sends hearts as well. And Tiffany says, Christopher, her beloved, is with her. So they're sending both Christopher and Tiffany. Thank you for sending a heart. And so good to see you here in person. All right, just a couple of things to give others a chance to catch up with us here. If you have questions, if they're personal questions, I ask you to set up a private session with me, and you can do that. My website's below. Just get a hold of me. Just give me a phone call, or if you prefer email, you can email me and I'll get back to you. But actually, it's easier just to give me a call, and we'll find the right time that works for you and me as well. Also, but if you have general questions that would be of interest to our whole audience, then please, you can put those in the comments below. You can email them to me, and we will put them in the queue and get to them as soon as we can. This particular one has some urgency because of what is taking place in the U.S., which does affect the whole world. The U.S. right now is in turmoil. And as a child of the 60s, I have to say, what I'm seeing now is no surprise, a total surprise, both of the above. And what I'm seeing now is personally quite upsetting. But I'm going to let Phillip talk to you, because Phillip and I usually agree, but he always has a much higher perspective. I get caught in my human self, and I want to share something with you before I read his answer and the full question. I used to have trouble when I was younger. I had so much trouble going to the grocery store. I lived in California at the time, and I would go at midnight when nobody else was there. And it was just hard for me to go to the grocery store. And I was talking to a very wise counselor, a psychic, a meditation leader. And he said to me, excuse me, the reason you have so much trouble at the grocery store is because it's about survival, which had never dawned on me before. He said, protect yourself. So I started doing that. And then the grocery store became easy for me. No problems at all. Move forward by many years, COVID came along. And the anger in the country I live in, the United States, the anger here became overwhelming. And I had a lot of trouble, again, going to the grocery store. So a couple of things I do, because I've heard from several of my clients that they've had trouble in the grocery store and being out among people. And a couple of things that help me is, one, Mother Earth is phenomenal. She always asks her permission, but just let that energy move down into Mother Earth and feel the cleansing. You might even imagine a waterfall, or be sure and take a shower after if it's too tough for you. But before you go, put yourself in a protective bubble of pure love and light coming through the top of the head, and then just see that bubble around you. The other thing that helps me when I'm in the grocery store, excuse me, having a little trouble with my voice there, are two things. One, I look at others, and I'm always wearing my mask, by the way, and where I live, that very few of us are. But I look at the other and I just go, bless you and bless me. And if I go, bless you and bless me, that helps me change my energy and the energy around the situation. So instead of getting myself upset, or instead of getting angry at the other, bless you, bless me. And the other thing I do is just simply, when I start getting stressed, if I can catch myself and become aware that I'm stressed, then I can remind myself that the body's reaction to stress is very similar to the body's reaction to excitement. And so I can shift that stress to excitement. Just a couple of things to perhaps help you. Julia says, hi, Diana. This is the first time I've caught you live. She's from London, the UK. Well, thank you, Julia. It's so good. And she sends big X, which is love. We're so glad you're with us. This issue of the U.S. Supreme Court does affect everybody around the world. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So here we go with a viewer's questions. And so good to have all of you. And Lexi Luna says, hi, Diana. So glad to be here with you today. Have a beautiful and blessed day. Thank you. So here we go. Due to the Supreme Court's ruling on Roe versus Wade and the Justice Thomas's remarks that contraception and gay marriage should be on the chopping blocks next, I'm curious as to Phillip's wisdom on the matter. We're going to answer that. And just a reminder, we will get a message from Phillip for the week. And as you know, this is just an oracle book, so each page has a different message. I forgot to mention that. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Roe versus Wade, and our international clients might be unfamiliar, although you probably aren't if you're here. That was back in I think 73. I could be off about the date, but it was early 70s because we worked for it through the 50s to allow, instead of allowing states to say women or girls could not have an abortion, even in cases of rape, even in cases of the mother's life over the fetus. Roe versus Wade was a very difficult to get through the Supreme Court, but did. And what it says is the federal government allows women to have an abortion. It's between them and their doctor. Keep the politics out of it. It's between the woman and her doctor is basically the bottom line of that. I'm not an attorney, so it could be explained a lot better, but that's the bottom line. Abortion before that was illegal in many states, including the state I grew up in. And a personal story, I've never been pregnant. I don't know what it feels like. I've never experienced that. But I have experienced, when I was 19, my college roommate was raped. And I know what it feels like to hold her. And in the trauma of the rape, to have her be worried that it was her fertile time and abortion was illegal. I have held men's hands, a close friend whose wife would not be alive if she had not had a pregnancy due to medical complications. So I'm sure you know where I stand. So here's what Phillip has to say, however. Let us begin with the most recent decision on women and their right to a medical abortion. If one studies the history of Earth, this is rather a new issue brought on by religious fear, certainly not by love, although there are many who sincerely believe they are acting in love. This is an issue with many religions. I'm going to repeat that because in the U.S. especially, we have very short memories. And if it didn't happen within the last hour sometimes, well, it's history. And history doesn't count. And what Phillip is saying, if one studies the history of Earth, this is a rather new issue brought on by religious fear. Certainly not by love, although there are many who sincerely believe they are acting in love. This is an issue with many religions. In the United States, it is the religion of Christianity that leads. This includes most sects of Christianity, including both Catholicism and Protestantism. I find that really, really interesting because when I was a girl, I was raised in the religious right. And Catholics were considered to us heathens. They didn't, they weren't religious. They were just as bad as all those other liberal religions. So now there's an alignment between Catholics and Protestants. These religions preach that life begins at conception. This confuses us, but we understand they are confusing life and soul, as well as confusing the soul and the spirit. Let us define these words: life, soul, spirit, and death, so we are clearly understood. Life is when a heartbeat and the human brain work simultaneously to produce the breath of life. In other words, breath is required for there to be life. I never thought of that before. It makes sense. In meditation, what do we concentrate on? The breath. Never thought of that. For all life, human or not, it is the breath that life requires. Many consider the term soul as meaning the life. They are different, so let us explain, as we have many times before, that the soul is the record of all incarnations. It is each individual story, so to speak. The spirit is what you are, have always been, and will always be. You are spirit, which is pure love. Death is when the breath ceases and the spirit leaves the body. The spirit remains and continues the soul's story in spirit world until the next incarnation, when the next story as a human begins. Now let us look at when the spirit enters the body and the soul begins the story as a human life. Spirit, or if you prefer soul, enters any time shortly before conception to any time during pregnancy to after birth to never. Spirit may choose parents and help to activate conception. This is not an easy task, so it does not happen readily. This is done when there is work, healing work, that is to be accomplished among the three. Most spirits enter sometimes during the pregnancy or shortly thereafter. Spirit looks for the families where they can best serve their soul's mission in the coming human incarnation. A spirit may enter and leave. This often results in a miscarriage, but not always. The same is true for stillbirth, but again, not always. Phillip goes on to say, there are many variables, most of which we will not cover at this time. We have given you the basics, which is enough to understand abortion has nothing to do with the unborn. Abortion has to do with the unborn. Abortion has to do with the female who is pregnant, the male whose sperm fertilized the female's egg, and the one who is the physical medical advisor. The male donor may or may not be consulted depending upon the circumstances. And I pretty much took that to mean if the male donor or the father is present. If there's a rape, the male donor should not be consulted, at least in my opinion. Phillip didn't really go on to that, but he said may or may not be consulted depending upon the circumstances. All others, even those who claim to be well-meaning, this is really, pay attention here. All others, even those who claim to be well-meaning, have stepped into karmic ties they are most likely unaware of when they step into another's life for whatever reasons. This means, for example, if you keep a woman from an abortion, you have a karmic tie to the mother and the child. Again, this gets quite complicated, so we will just say one's heart and motives are always to be kept in mind, for this is one you are creating in your life and future incarnations. If we talk against, if I think Phillip explained it. I'm going to leave it alone. Phillip goes on to say, to move on to Justice Thomas, it may behoove you to remember the questions asked before his confirmation. Then ask yourself if you've been asleep all these years, or are you too young to know what has been taking place in the U.S.? We remind you the pendulum swings widely to one direction and then to the other before it quiets in the middle. The pendulum is still swinging far to what you call the right. This will continue and bring a larger split among the people this summer. We suggest you prepare for upheaval. Your choice then is to allow the upheaval to create chaos in your life or to live your own life with peace, calm, and integrity. Your choice is to allow the upheaval to create chaos in your life or to live your own life with peace, calm, and integrity. I'm going to suggest that you listen to Philip's message, the July predictions that I just made just yesterday, I guess, because he's talking about an opening in the month of July for those of us who are choosing love and peace. That's not to say we won't see or experience or witness the upheaval, but it is to say we have a chance to make leaps. And when we make leaps and see things from a higher perspective, our own lives are calmer, are more peaceful. So be sure and listen, because this is going to be an interesting summer, shall we say. A lot of upheaval. All right, there you have it. Life requires breath. And without breath, we have no life, whether we're a tree or a human. And don't forget those karmic ties. I do want to go back to that a little bit. The way I read that, the way it felt to me is, as long as we are reaching out in love and able to hold that love, our karmic ties, our future creates more love. But if we're trying to control someone else, guess what we're creating? Debbie says, wow, thank you. I said, wow, too, Debbie. Normally, I write this out a couple of days before and have time to catch my breath. I didn't have time this week until this morning to write this out. And I'm going, whoa. I had to take a long walk in the heat before I could come back and sit down, be able to write this. Tiffany says, but what will happen to all the babies born who aren't wanted? Well, unfortunately, there are about 500,000. Well, no, I think 250,000. I forget the number. There are a lot of babies right now in foster care. And studies show that children raised in foster care, I forget the numbers, but a lot of children raised in foster care end up homeless. Now, that's not always the case. But foster care is tough in many, many cases. Not all by any means, because there are wonderful foster care parents, and I praise them. I wish they all were. And Carla B says, fascinating. Thanks for the clarity, Diana. You're welcome. You know, babies who are born who aren't wanted, as many of you know who work with me, have the abandonment script. I look at the higher purpose, because that's something we can't see. Why would a child choose to be born and not have parents? To help heal the abandonment script, for one. Could be a karmic tie for another. I don't know. Let's get our message, shall we? I have to tell you, one of my clients said to me one time, Phillip goes so deep on the YouTube messages. How do you do that? And I said, it's Phillip. He comes up with, I'm always surprised. There's something always in the message that I didn't know. There we go. If you heard left, you and I are in sync. That's just your intuition. But if you heard right, your intuition is telling you that's a message for you. You need to listen. And here's our message on the left side. When you turn on the light, the darkness goes away. When you turn on a light, the darkness goes away. I love that. I love that. And I remind myself of that quite often when I start getting upset about things happening in the world or in the US or wherever. Turn on a light, and light and love. Keep that in mind. So start changing it to love, and the darkness goes away. If you heard right, here's your message. Look at what exists, not at what doesn't. Look at what exists, not at what doesn't. You know, so many things we fear. We think, oh my gosh, this is going to happen. Oh no. And we bring it on. So whatever, look at what we're fearing and let's see what we can do to change it for the better with love. Can we? We can in our own lives. And if we change it in our own lives, we are going to affect the world. Maybe not the way we want to, and maybe not in as great or as quickly, as greatly or as quickly, but we are changing the world, and certainly we're changing our own lives. So remember, look at what exists, not at what doesn't. That's not to say don't look ahead. We have to plan ahead sometimes, but look at what already exists, and then see where it could go, and then see where you want it to help take it. And for all of us, remember, when you turn on the light, the darkness goes away. I'm so excited to see all of you live. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your comments here. Thank you for the comments below. And thank you for the thumbs up. I don't get too many thumbs down. In fact, I don't know that I have any. I love it. Thumbs up. But I appeal to a particular audience. But again, I remind those of you who disagree with me, and you are allowed to disagree with me, let's do so with kindness. And if you disagree with anybody who makes comments below, please do so with compassion, with love, with kindness, not with anger. Not with anger. It's not allowed on this channel. I love you. Thank you for the love that you send to us. Thank you for the love that you receive from us. Love does not mean we ignore what's going on. It means we deal with it with love. Oh, hello, Annika World. Annika Lilla. I'm not saying it right today, am I? And Carly B., thank you for the donation. I am so grateful. Thank you. That is so sweet of you. Thank you. Hugs to you. She's sending me a big hug. Those of you who haven't seen the live feed back yet, she's sending me this big hug, and I am sending it right back to you, girl. Thank you. I so appreciate the donation. You are most welcome. And Tiffany says thank you with a big smile. All right, my friends. Until next week, I'll see you then, and submit your questions. Love you all.